picking them up in Brockton and Fredonia, incidentally. Check with the Brockton seniors, Portland seniors, if you're interested. You need your player card. You have to get a player card. You can get that, and they usually give the deals with them. And a driver's license. You know, getting across the border in this country is more and more difficult. The only people who can get across the border are the drug runners. They have no problem at all. The Fredonia Pomfret Great Belt Seniors has a nice little group here, and they're doing a bus trip to the Seneca Allegheny Casino. And that'll be going off July 7th, guys. Check with them if you're interested, and you again have to have a valid photo ID. Driver's license usually works, and your Players Club card. You want to call? 672-2891. And now we have some other, oh, sorry, the news is over? All right. Sorry, everybody, there's no more news. You have to read the paper. All right. We have the geezer coming on in a minute, but I'm going to give you a public service announcement, and this is just for you, my friends.
Because you believed in me,
I can believe in you.
I can believe in me.
Because you pushed me to be better.
You pushed me to be better.
I learned to push myself.
Because you showed me respect.
Respect.
I respect others.
I respect myself.
Because you showed me a place.
I can use everything you taught me.
Everything you taught me.
I found my place.
I have found my place.
This is my place.
For all the young men and women in the United States Air Force, there was one person who showed them the possibilities and opened the door. To the teachers, counselors, ministers, and moms and dads who helped a young man or young woman discover that the greatest force of all is inside of themselves, we thank you. And more importantly,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
they thank you.
There we go. I got a guy here who's trumping a geezer. Mort Flexer shoots from the hip.
Good morning, Reed. A very good morning to our guests and to you, ladies and gentlemen. Sometime this morning, I got a hold of an encyclopedia and just opened it up. It's killing time, sort of. And I opened it to a page listing about 50 or 60 terrorist organizations around the world. Well, most of them were in Arab nations, Israel. Quite a few of them were in Ireland. And I got a lesson in how the crazy brain of people works, my crazy brain particularly. Read about Ireland, I think immediately of the 10th century, excuse me. I think of the 10th century because one of my early heroes in life was a gentleman named Brian Boru, who was the Ard Rí, or ruler, of Munster County. But in any event, I also thought about the Vikings who were then spreading across the world, even came to the United States. We're probably lucky they didn't survive, or we'd all be blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Now, if you think of your friends who are blonde-haired and blue-eyed, they probably came from Northern Europe, Northern Italy, the Italian coast, Portugal, the Soviet Union, or what was the Soviet Union. Amazing how those people, with their weird old boats, were able to conquer a considerable part of the civilized world. But in any event, jumping back to Ireland, Brian Boru, as I said, was a leading political hero, but Ireland was conquered by the Vikings, one of the countries, and consequently he and the rest of the Irish felt subservient to them. Brian even married a Scandinavian girl to keep them off his back, rather. And then came the year 1012, which is my favorite year in history, because it's the year of the Battle of Clontarf. That was a year that Ireland, the first country to do so, by the way, drove the Scandinavians out. That was on Good Friday in the year 1012. I remember poor Brian was back in his tent praying and thanking God for the favorable results when one of the Scandinavians, who was having a little trouble getting back to his ship, came by, saw Brian praying, drew his sword, the Scandinavian, and cut Brian from all the way from north to south. And that was the end of my favorite hero. Reed, you'll have to work hard to take his place, but thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the Irish were a very fierce nation, and the Brits were so scared of the Irish, they actually built a huge wall, and the Romans, across the top of England, so to fend off the Irish if they ever decided to come down there. And of course, they got even with the Irish later on. They starved them to death during the Great Famine. The Lord Protector, what was his name, that guy? Charles II had him hung after he'd been buried dead. He hated him so much. What was that guy's name? Come on, you historians. I remember. All right. At any rate, enough said. Got a great show here. We've got Left Right, which we have from time to time. We have always Jim Caflisch and Roy Harvey, and they talk about issues that are very, very important and in all the headlines at the time, and that's health care, the health care reform bill. And I'm going to let them just take off on it. I have a list of questions I wanted to ask you. The first question is, you might want to think of this. How's it? Well, no, I'll let you guys do it. Who am I to interfere? You're on, Roy. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Reed, and it's good to be back with you, Jim. I have not looked at television, and I'm not up on what's going on in television with regard to the legislation. The bill that we're talking here, we were going to discuss this health reform bill of Obama, and the bill itself is 1,000 pages long, and as I understand it, very few, if any, legislators have actually read it. I read a 9-page synopsis, and it seems to me excessively vague in the 9-page synopsis, but I believe that we have 50 million people uninsured.
And incidentally, another probably 25 to 50 million underinsured. You realize that
absolutely
50% of all bankruptcies in the United States are health care related. And out of the 50% who went bankrupt for health care, 3/4 of them had quote insurance.
Right.
So it ain't working.
No, it's certainly not working, but I'm
with all apologies to Jim here.
How so, Jim?
Well, first of all, I would take issue with the number of uninsured. The hardcore uninsured really amounts to about 15 million people. You have about 91% of the U.S. population that is covered by insurance in one form or another, and those that aren't have access to Medicaid. We don't have in the United States any near the problems that occur in, say, Canada or Great Britain, where people are put on waiting lists for months and years to get a treatment. Former President Bill Clinton was a dead man walking in Canada or in Great Britain, and got a little back feed here.
Yeah, apparently.
But anyway, the whole issue comes down to what kind of quality of care do we want to have. Certainly we have a cost issue in the United States, but we need to certainly make sure that the quality doesn't suffer while we try to control costs.
Well, I did want to mention the cost of insurance. We're the only country, we're the highest priced. We pay more for insurance in this country than any other insurance. For instance, they're paying about 1/3 less in Canada, and Japan is half what we pay. I mean, overall, healthcare costs.
But a comparison of the United States and Canada, when you look at Canada's population of roughly 30 or 31 million people, there are more CAT scanners and MRI machines from State College, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh to Erie than there is in all of Canada. And a lot of the advances in medicine that occur are in the United States. When you need access to care, it's here. Natasha Richardson, who died as a result of a fairly simple skiing accident at Mount Tremblant in Canada, which is about 80 miles from Montreal, should never have died. Those are the things that happen in Canada and other countries that don't happen here.
Well, as often as I can, I live in Canada. You can only do it if you're an American, half the year, 6 months, and I try to get as